Hello, Billy the Artist here with a brand new how to draw video, and at last we are doing Draco Malfoy. Tom Felton, the actor, plays Draco in all the films, and we're doing him in year 1 at Hogwarts. Anyway, I hope you're ready for this. You've waited a long time, but for all the new how to draw videos, do like and subscribe and tick the bell to be notified, because lots of new how to draw videos are coming soon. With everyone homeschooling, I am doing a lot. So these are some of the new ones. We have how to draw a toilet roll. That was an interesting one to do because there was none left on the shelves. We have the thing that's causing all the problems why you lot are homeschooling now, and how to draw a zombie. Again, check out the how to draw playlist. Link in the cards and in the description box below. For the how to draw playlist, there's over 110 and that's growing rapidly. But also do check in the description and in the cards for the Harry Potter how to draw playlist. Again, we've got Harry, we've got Dobby, we've got Hermione, we have done Ron as well, and there are others. We've got all the badges, the house badges, plus Ollivander's and the Hogwarts school crest. So do check them out and share them out with your friends. But we are doing today, at last, Draco Malfoy. So I shall move those out. Now, as you can see, we have a new grid rather than the one that I've used before. Now, I'm doing this because I want you guys, because portraiture is quite complex, but I want you guys to still use the shapes. So again, check out how to draw anything. Link in the cards and in the description, see the banner. Part 1, you're using shapes, the basics, how to draw a bird, a bee, a flea, a tree, a horse, a house, or anything else. So the basics help, but this grid system will help you to do it as well, to give you the markers to make it work. Now when you draw this grid on, you'll see in the banner I've actually put the dimensions. So the centre line is still at 105 millimeters. This line on the edge starts at 5 mil in, so you've got 5, 25, 45, 65, 85, 105, 125, 145, 165, 185 and 205 millimeters. Now coming down, again, we've got 5 millimeters down, and then we've got 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters, all the way down. So you've got these 2 centimeter grids to help you. But I've kept this line dead center. That's why I've got these kind of 5s off. Now, this line here is just a little bit above the actual center line that would have been on the previous drawings. But I'm doing this so that it can help you to grow and develop your skills and get a better portrait faster. When you actually draw these lines on, now I've drawn these on with a 2B pencil, quite dark, so that you can see them. You'd want to draw them on using a light pencil, maybe a 2H, or very, very lightly. Just, put your ruler on when you've put your markings on and just very lightly draw. Even if I used a 2B, if I lightly drew the lines, you would barely see them. Where I've drawn them on so you can actually see where the drawing is actually going. So again, do check out all of the videos in the how to draw series. Do like and subscribe, and we are now going to get on with drawing Draco, and we're starting with the trusty 2B pencil. I will be using a 4B as well for the darker stuff, and I might use 2H for some of the lighter tones. But we are going to start by drawing some shapes, so, and just some marker points. So here now in the top, I'm just putting a line where the top of his head is. So we need his ear line. His hairline is on 105. So I'm kind of coming down 25, 45. Really should write them on, and then it would actually help. So if I put 25, 45, very likely you won't see these, 65, bum, ba-dum, bum. I should have done this beforehand, but again, you can actually see this working, 85, 105, 125, 145, 165, 185, 205, 225, 245, 265, 285. Now again, this centre line here is 105. So this one we want 85, then we've got 65, 45, 25, and this will help you actually putting your reference points down, because you've got a lot of lines, and we're just going to whack in some shapes to get the overview down before we start doing the detail. We need 145, 165, 185, 205. So I know that of 105, this is a bit like a game called Battleships. Turned it into a movie, interestingly enough. So we know that here we have his ear. It's at the top on the side and the hair coming off the back. So I'm going to draw across these shapes kind of parallelogram, a rectangle with wobbly sides. So that's where that ear is. So now going across here, we want a rectangle for the eyebrow, and we want a rectangle for Tom's eye, about there. Here we can have a rectangle for his nose, and a line coming up there. Again, on this side, coming over to 45. This just helps you to place the rectangles down when you're drawing the shapes. So we want a rectangle for his right eye, and then we want a nice diagonal line from 105 all the way down to 185 underneath his eye, and that's where the side of his cheek is. So now we've got his lips on the 185 line, jaws coming out, so I'm just putting another rectangle, which is where his lips will be. Again, you can see these lightly just starting to appear. And then we want the point of the bottom of his chin, and then that diagonal line is going to go up and join there. And then we want this diagonal line is coming up to join there, and then it just curves up to the top there. Now, up above his nose, up on the 85 line, and it's just to the left of 85, we've got a V, and that's his hairline, where it comes down to kind of where his hair is brushed back and over. Now we can draw just a diagonal line down there. Now we're going to come out, and we're just going to follow, whack a curve in down to the top of his ear. Now this shape here from the top comes down across a couple of squares, and it's coming down, and you're just curving the whole of the top of his head out to 85. And we're just putting these lines in very, very quickly. So now below 105, we've got a bit of a rectangle shape there for his hairline. Now again, we've got another little triangle there, and you can see the hair is going to go back and around and over the top. So very quickly and very lightly, we've got a basic shape down for his head. Now again, if none of these lines run, or even if you just got the basic centre lines with the extra two that I've put in before, you can see how just putting these reference points in is going to help you with your drawing. And we're going to build on these in a moment. These are just very, very good quick construction lines. So now from his chin here, we can see we've got, coming down to above 205, a triangle coming off his chin, and that's that collar. We need top of the collar, a little rectangle where the collar is fastened underneath his chin, and then we need another one coming down. We've got a triangle coming off to the right, and that's going all the way out, and then that's going to come all the way down, and then we've got another triangle that's going to go up, and that's his collar going around the back, a bit of his neck going in, and we can have that going around the back. Now, dead basic simple shapes, all kind of rectangle there, that's his cloak going off. Now we can carry on this line right the way down to the centre line. It's just got this big V, and this is his cloak coming down on top of his jumper. Then we've got another V inside, that's his cardigan, and then we've got, I mean, you could draw a basic box and then just draw a line, a rectangle there, and that's his tie, and then you've got those lines out, which makes his tie out on top of his shirt and underneath. Now again, we just want a couple of parallel lines, and these are the shapes of the stripes of the tie on his Slytherin tie. Do check out how to draw the Slytherin badge as well, that's in the Harry Potter playlist. And then we've got that one coming down and going across. So you can see very, very quickly, I've now just got his shoulder to put in, and I'm using the grid to actually help me put my reference points in. Again, there's a diagonal line, and I'm building that line on top. Now we've got here inside his little bit of an earlobe is showing. Now that, very, very quickly, you've got, in proportion, the complete shape of Draco's head in. Now, I'm going to go over it quite dark. Now, when you see me doing the time lapses, like Shaku Mason and other people, there's one of Avicii, you see I have a plastic bridge that goes over. Now I'm going to use a bit of paper on this, like I've done on the other how to draws, to stop my hand from smudging. Now, the reason on the full time lapses that I do of the very high end drawings, they take a long time and it just stops me smudging. It just, the bridge that I've made allows you to see everything underneath. But with these how to draw videos, I am trying to produce the videos in the same way as you would at home. Now remember, this is just using my trusty 2B pencil. Now, if you check out the beginning of How to Draw a Zombie, the first 20 minutes of that discusses all of the pencil techniques that I use and the pencils and the grades and things like that. It's a good basics overview. I will put an individual video up just of the 20-minute section. So do check that out and enjoy How to Draw a Zombie as well. Now, we are going to start detailing up. Now I'm going to start with this eyebrow, and you can see now he's very blonde haired, but this eyebrow is a little bit dark, fortunately. So inside that shape that we've drawn, I'm building up the actual shape of his eyebrow. Now that comes across into that square about halfway, and then it goes down. Now his eye, we've drawn in the bottom of his eye is about halfway, and then the top of his eye is underneath where the eyebrow comes down. So 2 little marks, and that will give you the scope. The edge of his eye is on the 125 line. Now I'm just curving that down, coming round, and the corner of his eye where he's tear duct in is just past the centre line. I'm going to curve that up, and now slap bang in the centre we need to draw the circle shape for his iris and his pupil. and then the pupil inside. And then inside we need to curve his eye up and over the top, and then you've got the fold right over the top, and that joins at the top, comes over, curves. Can bring that over a little bit, and we can curve the fold down past the tear duct. Now we need to bring that over a little bit, because the eye does fill up that space quite a lot. But again, using these reference lines really helps. He's got quite a wide pupil. Now I'm going to gently colour that in, just so as you've got something to actually lock onto. And the same with his iris. He hasn't got a very sharp highlight, but I'm still leaving a little bit of light above there where his actual highlight is. And then the inside of his eyelid underneath his eye again follows that curve. Now I'm using this normal pencil. I would be using a technical pencil, but I'm trying to do these drawings in exactly the same way that you would be at home with normal pencils. So there we have his left eye in. Now we've got a bit of shading coming down underneath the socket, so I'm just putting a little V shape underneath there that's going to go up to the corner, and that's the edge of his eye socket coming down off his eyebrow, and that'll help for the shading in a little bit. So there, straight away you've got something to lock onto, and it's made the drawing process very, very simple. Now again, we're going to do the right eye and the right eyebrow. So now we've got his eye socket shape is curved, so that's like a C coming round the top of his eyebrow. Now underneath his eyebrow is level, and then it flicks up at the edge, and then it curves down. In fact, I'm just going to shade in that little bit there. But again, try and follow with eyebrows, same with hair, the direction that they're going. Makes them look more natural. Now, here we now can see that his pupil is to the right of the 65 line, but also that his eye, the top of his eye, is just underneath. There's a little bit of a gap from the bottom of his eyebrow, so we want that curve coming down, and this is the top of his eye with the eyelash on, and that curves and it comes to about halfway where his tear duct is, inside that square. And you can see how that's fairly level with this one. Just, you can see it's slightly angled, just a little bit lower. So you're now in the V of the corner where his tear duct is. You come off and it curves right down underneath, and then curves out to meet about halfway the top line, and the eyelash goes out. Now again, it's thicker on the top, and we'll add those details in a little bit later when we're building more of the detail up. Now inside, we want the inside of his eyelid, and then again the bottom of his iris of his eyeball is above the lower lid. And there's more of the white showing on this side than on this side. how he is menacingly looking out at you. And again, his pupil, most of it is on this side, the right as you're looking at the page now, of the 65 line towards the 85. Quite like using these numbers, they're good reference points. And this technique of using a grid is amazing. It's historically wonderful, used by all the great masters. So there I'm filling in that eyeball and the colour of his iris a little bit. So we've been drawing now for a little over, I don't know, about 15 minutes, and already you've got the full shape and outline down, and you can see his eyes. Draco is coming at you. So now what we need to do is we can add some shape to his nose. We've got this little rectangle that we drew down here. Now the curve of his nose is about there, and it goes right through the 85 line. But I was saying, like, this technique of using a grid, Michelangelo used it, loads of people did, you know, on his Sistine Chapel artwork and the massive cartoons that are in the V&A in London, and loads of artists did. Constable did, Turner did. Using the grid system is absolutely wonderful, and it helps you develop your technique if you want to do highly representational drawings. And I will do a video covering more stuff in depth about it, but if people are doing absolute hyperreal illustrations and drawings, they're either tracing the outline, here we've got the edge of his nose, they're using a grid and you can barely see it, or they're using a projector or a light box to produce an overlay trace. That's it. It's that simple. I'll explain more in a full video later, and I might just witter a little bit more, but we are concentrating on his nose. So now we've got this edge, you've just seen, that is like a D. This side is like a C, but it's very, very thin, and we've got a little bit of shadow that's going to go up. Now, it's slightly diagonal, that shape, before it then kicks round to go up to his eye. Now, again, we've got this bag under his eye here. We've got the shadow on this side, and you've got a kind of double one. So you've got one directly underneath, and then like this one, and there's one there as well. You can put a second line in. Again, just a nice wide U, just a cradle going underneath. Now we want where the shade is, and this is pretty much bang in the centre of this square. So you extend the shadow coming out. There is a bit of a shape there, and we can bring that down to his nose, bit of a diagonal over, and this is where we'll start putting the shading in a little bit later. But already you can see now we've got two eyes and a nose coming together, building up for you. Now his mouth, we've got this rectangle down here. The bottom of his lip is here, and you can see how it just curves like a big U. The smile of a mouth, it's just a big wide U underneath, but it's just to the left of the 85 line. And I keep turning my pencil so I get like the slightly sharper edge. And in fact, listen out. That's my new toy, my electric pencil sharpener. Ho ho, that's happy. So I get a sharp point very, very quickly, and I don't have to use my old ratchety one, which I do love and I do still use, but it's just great to be able to have the pencil sharpened very, very quickly. That's a luxury after many years. I am nearly 50 years old. That is my first electric pencil sharpener. Wait, good things come to those who wait. So anyway, there's the U of that lip. Now above, we've got the top. And you can see here, you've got a little triangle. And then you've got the top of his lip, another triangle that comes and joins the line. And that's on the 185 line. So you've got that U there. It's a bit like an extended M or two mountain peaks. some kind of like, or you're drawing a bird, and that curves, and then you want the kick of his mouth going up just slightly above the line. And the same on this side, you want the kick to the right just going up, his evil, sinister smile. And then underneath we've got his lips, and we can detail them up, the bottom of his top lip over his bottom lip. And there you have Draco's mouth. Now we have the shape going all around his side of his face and underneath his chin. Now again, these reference lines and the grid lines will help you massively. It doesn't matter whether you want to start on this side or this side. So I'm going to start from this side and come all the way around. So you just follow the curve slightly, just to the right of the corner of the 185 and 165. And then this just needs to curve slightly down here. So use the curve of your hand. And it's going to touch just about halfway underneath. And then the same thing, it's going to come through the next line down about halfway, and then we're looking at about a third for the bottom of his chin. Now again, I draw these lines slightly darker so that you can see them than I would do on my full proper portrait drawings that take me a couple of days. Now again, this curve is coming out. You've got a little curve coming past this junction of the 85 and 205 line, and then it curves back in to his cheek out where here. So you've got a little wobble here. So I'm going to curve it down. So you got, it's not straight. Faces are not straight. So you've got this organic flow. Now again, up here now, we're going to slightly curve the edge of his cheek, coming down and join on there. And there you can see his face really starting to come alive and look at you, because it's getting more solid with the outline. So again, we've got the edge of his hair here, and we just need to bring that line down, and then where the hair is, a little bit of ear there, and then we've got the edge of his earlobe there. So now we're going to build on the hair, the shape of the hair, and you can see where the edge of the hairline is, coming all the way up and over. So coming up to the 65 line, that's going to jump in there, and then you just want to wiggle up to the next line, and then you've just got a little flat bit, and then that curves over and goes up to the top line, and then you've got a little peak, and then this is now going to curve all the way round. Now this is curving right down the back of his head and his hairline, and then we just got a little bit of wobbles there as the hair's brushed back over, and it goes around the back of his head, and then this curves about a third of the way in, and then goes round behind the back of his ear. So now got his very blonde hair coming over his ear, and then that's going to go up over his forehead. We've got those very strong highlights on the top. And I'm just going to very quickly indicate some lines in, which these will get erased in a very short moment, because we're going to get rid of all of the construction lines. Again, I am following the direction of his hair, how it's been brushed, going up and just pushing the lines up, back and over, the way you would brush your hair. And that gives me the direction and the form that I actually want. So again, here we've got his very light blonde hair. And we can draw a little bit of indication where the shadow lines are going to be on his forehead. Now we need to finish his ear. I don't know if you can hear the wind. Like I'm saying, my studio is in the loft, so when it's windy, as it is outside, you might hear this. It's quite noisy, and the creaks and the grounds. So it's not that I've got peeves out and about. I just work in the loft, and it can get a little bit drafty up here sometimes. So in other videos, you might actually hear birds singing as well. That might happen soon. So we want the corner of his ear. Lobe is coming down to about halfway, and then the inside part of his ear is going there to about 2/3 of the way up, and then you've got the top of his ear goes up and just touches the 105 line, and you've got a little triangle there. You can see it's just a little triangle, and that's the shadow underneath. And you've got the top of his earlobe and the bit round the back where the hair, the back of his earlobe coming round and right touches where the hair of the back of his head comes around. Now we need to put a little U there, and this is the inside part of his ear, and then that's the fold underneath the inside of his earlobe. Now his hair comes right down there, and then we've got this shape. You see a little rectangle and a little triangle, and that's the bottom of his hair coming out underneath. Now there you can see we've got the outline down completely of our Draco, Tom Felton. So now we're going to detail up the outline of the clothes, because we've already got the lines in. So there's the edge of his collar. Now again, if you just kind of wiggle it down, because the edge of his shirt collar is fabric and it's not a perfect straight line. Again, coming back up, you've already put the V in. And then we've got where the collar joins underneath and the button is fastened. Then you want the collar coming up. You can see how that goes through these lines, goes across, then you've got a fold, then you've got a slight diagonal line going up to another crease kind of fold, and then it goes straight up through the line, and then you've got the neck coming down there, and all that there will be shadow. Now his cloak, you can just really, I'm going to get rid of that because you want to follow the lines. His cloak comes in inside the 165 line, just there. I went over. Now that doesn't matter, but it just shows that you can, if you keep looking and keep observing, it will help you with your drawing. and then that curves down, and then that goes out, and that one goes slightly above there. So now we want to do the collar on this side. Now again, we just drew a V, but you can see here how it's got a slight kink shape to it. So gonna put a couple of little construction lines in. So now we want the bottom of his collar, and that just kind of slightly curves up, and then it curves, well, kind of goes straight up to about there and then curves around. But you've just got a bit of a wobble where the sewn hem lines are on the edge of the collar. Now I'm just going to indicate inside, this is the kind of stitching lines. Again, just like the hair, we will end up going over them, a bit of shadow inside. Now the tie, so we've got a curve over the top coming down, and then we want to just bring that in. That comes down and then it goes up. It's not flat parallel with the lines. You've got a slight incline from this side to that side, so it's just above the kind of halfway line, and then you go up, and then we want to curve the tie out, and then we've got the slithering stripes. So here, can really detail that up a bit, and that goes up, and you can see we've got the tie going off around his neck underneath there. Now over his shirt, and this one curves out a little bit more, and then that comes down underneath that line, that comes down and curves around just to the right of the 105 line, the centre line. Then we've got the cardigan, and then the edge of his cloak. And now we want to do the edge of the cloak coming down here. And if you can follow your construction lines and the actual grid construction lines that are there, it will help you to very quickly put these lines in. All based around the shapes. So there, we've now got an outline down of Draco. Just sharpen my pencil again rather quickly. I just need the brush to brush off all of the construction lines. So now I'm going to very carefully, inside my drawing, get rid of, and I'm using the Stettler Mars plastic, just cleaning it up on my jeans. And this is the kind of rubber that I use to rub out a lot of the lines, because I can press on and it doesn't tear up the paper. But again, because I use the 2B pencil, it doesn't tear up the paper as well, because the soft comes out. If you press on hard with a 2H or a, even harder than that, 4H or a 6H, it will actually be very difficult to get the pencil line off without damaging your paper. So here you can see now, because the construction lines are being removed, you actually got your portrait down. And as I said earlier about people who say they do it freehand, if they don't show you the working out and don't talk about it, they probably haven't. They've probably traced it, used a projector or something like that. If you look at some of the world's top portrait artists and you see their preliminary underdrawing or painting on the canvas, it's very rough and very loose, because they're putting the construction lines down and building using shapes in exactly the same way. And it's absolutely brilliant to see. Whereas, and I think it was Vermeer, when they x-rayed an old master's paintings, Johannes Vermeer I think his name is, there was no real underdrawing, and they figured out that he was using a lens as a projector to actually project the scene that was in front of him direct onto the canvas. And there is it's like Peter's Vermeer or something, there's a documentary done where a person with no artistic background actually painted a Vermeer in exactly the same way. Penn and Teller helped the gentleman to do it. So there we have an outline. Isn't that looking rather splendid? So again, as I say, I will talk a lot more about the techniques, and I will be doing some very quick. If you check out the Dumbledore, the young Dumbledore picture that I did, if you actually check that out, it's in the Harry Potter, How to Draw Harry Potter playlist. The first drawing I did of that when the Fantastic Beasts movie came out, it was about just before midnight when they released the trailer, and my wife was doing something, reading, sewing, I can't remember exactly what she was doing, but the trailer, and I just froze the trailer and did a portrait drawing, and I think I did post it on Instagram, that I did in about 20 minutes, something like that. Completely live, no grid, just using shapes. Now, you see all the wibbly wobbly construction lines that I do, and that's absolutely fine. And then I show you how to do it with a very basic grid and shapes, and you see it in real time. It took me, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that, these kind of portrait lessons. And I will be taking my portrait lessons as well. They'll still be on YouTube for free, but I will be taking them onto, well, all my How to Draw lessons onto Patreon as well, very, very soon. And on there they will be advert free. So now I have removed, I'm just going to artfully get rid of some of the construction lines around his head with, this is my putty rubber, putty eraser, and I use this has allowed me to get rid of some of the lines like inside his ear and his lips. Now if you'd have drawn the construction lines on very lightly, they'd have come off and you wouldn't have any construction lines underneath, but I think it's rather arty. Now there we have Draco Malfoy outline, ready to go to start actually putting the detail in. Now I am going to very quickly, I've sharpened my pencil again, just indicate some of the lines that are missing. And there again, I'm following the direction of the hair. Which is all rather good. That's looking fantastic. Shading next. So we are now going to, I'm using a 2B pencil and it's been sharpened slightly, and we're going to gently start adding the shading. I'm coming down his left side of his cheek. Just filling in quickly, and that comes all the way down, and then you've just got, it comes off underneath his bottom lip. I'm really enjoying this. I will be honest with you, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. And this is the thing, people think, oh, you know, you're an artist, you do this all the time, everything's fine. Well, it's been about 6 months since I said, you know, because of things that have happened with family, and I'm now drawing a little bit of shade on here. It's been about 6 months since, in between, oh, sorry, I need to describe this. Like I say, I'm doing the little kind of crease underneath his nose, above his lip, and then coming down off the nose there, and we need down underneath, again we've got this kind of triangle shape underneath his eye. But as I was saying, like I said, I'm filling this big shade here. Because of everything that happened with the illness with my father-in-law, and then when he passed away, and then the funeral after, you know, just I had to carry on doing my oil paintings, and thank you for your patience. But it's been like long time since I've done one of these videos. It's like, ooh, gotta draw Draco now, you know. I mean, and literally, even in between, while I've been doing this, somebody has put a comment on YouTube, when am I doing Draco? I'm doing him now, and he says it's lovely, but it says it's like, oh, you know, really, I love doing this. I really do love encouraging you guys how to draw, because starting with a pencil is absolutely fantastic. So again, we've got this shadow underneath this eye now, and if you can wield a pencil before you get anywhere near a graphics tablet, if you want to be a computer games designer, like the zombie is from Plants vs Zombies, then just learning how to draw. You could be out somewhere on a napkin using a biro, or, you know, just a pencil somewhere. You could be in IKEA and, you know, see something, you know, with your family, and there's bits of paper there and pencils, and you could just sit there, all your family are getting the kitchen sorted, and you can just draw something that's in front of you in that area in IKEA. There is the capability of doing something that can give you a skill that could even end up becoming a career. Right, I'm now coming down the side of his cheek, and now we want the tone all down underneath his neck. But this is the joy of drawing. You get to do something that can occupy your time, give you immense pleasure, and a skill that can benefit you for life. Now I'm filling in all of his ear very lightly, lighter than I've been doing here, and then this section is a bit darker. That little triangle is darker still. So do enjoy your drawing. Remember, just enjoy it. It takes years to improve. But I love giving you these techniques that will help you to develop and grow your skills as an artist. So do like and subscribe. Click the bell to be notified when new videos are up. Do very soon check out my Patreon account, where everything will be up advert free, and content will go up there quicker. as well. It'll go up there first in the future. But again, these are all things that I am working on. After Draco, I'm going to be doing Professor Snape. Now, we've got his nose here. We've got where you've got this D, where the crease of his nose against his cheek. And that goes off. We want to bring shadow down underneath to the side of his nose. And we can increase the shadow there. Again, his eyeball is in shadow, so we're just filling in little bits there. So now you can see a little bit of tone has gone down, and it's easier to add more tone than it is to take it away, which is why you build it up slowly in layers. So now I'm coming down around his hairline. And now we want to do his hair. And again, I'm doing this quick. I'm not going for hyper real because that would take days. So I'm doing indications. And I am drawing in the direction. Now again, you can go all the time as if you were brushing it in the same direction. But as long as your lines, whether you're going backwards or forwards, are in the direction of the hair, jobs are good. Now, here, we've got some darker lines, and then it really kicks up and over, right up to the top. And because the light is front on coming down, it's darker round the back. So now you've got this very strong highlight on the top of his forehead here, just where the hair is going back. And again, I am drawing these lines in the same direction as his hair. Now if you were right-handed, you probably would be going that way, in the way of his hair, as I am now. But again, this is just personal preference, whether you're right or left-handed, but do make sure your lines follow the direction of all of the hair. And that way it'll look far more natural. So again, he's got his blonde hair here coming off from this very strong highlight. Now I'm using the slightly thicker side of the pencil. To increase. And again, remember, this is the 2B pencil. And now I'm coming down to where the 85 line was. And we want the lines coming down from the side of his head, because it's all brushed back. Your stereotypical baddie with greased backed, slicked backed hair. So now we want the shadow underneath his eye increasing. And again, his eyebrow. We can darken that down. I'm turning the pencil just so that I get the sharp point all the time. Now here with his eye, we want a nice dark line over the top, and that's going to be thicker. And now you can see Draco really starting to look at you. Now we do need the line in the fold above his eye, and that kind of goes out just above but joins at the top and creases in over the top there. So now we can darken in the eyebrow on this side above this eye. Same above the eye. And that goes right across into that corner. We've got a kind of V here. You can see where the shape comes down to the nose. And that's a little bit darker. So you can see the form in the side of his nose starting to take shape. So now we can actually detail up his lips a little bit. So we've got the top of that part of his top lip. That's like a long M going out to that kick up at the top. And then we've got a V. So from this kick point, you come down to just past underneath the centre point there, and then you've got a V that goes up, and then it curves off slightly. Now we've got his lip comes down, his bottom lip comes under, and then on this side it curves up right the way to that corner point. Now we want a slightly darker tone on his upper lip. And then where his upper lip is over his bottom lip, you've got a little bit of shadow underneath. And then you've got the highlight kind of all across the centre. But we need to indicate a little bit of shadow underneath. And it's not as bright a highlight as up at the top. So we can fill all of that in very carefully. And there you've got his lips and most of the tone now in. So now, because we've got his cheek here, it's nearly as bright as that, but I'm just going to very gently, very lightly, I'm filling in all the way across his cheek and his nose, similar to what's here on his forehead. And the same on his cheek. Now I'm filling in the mid-tone on his hair. Just keep looking at your reference. And that'll help you with where to go, how to fill in all of the tones that you need in the areas as you go around. Now we've got a lot of general tone down. Now you can use your finger, you can also use smudging sticks and smudging tools. So there's a full smudging stick, paper one, and there's one I use. That's an old pen and ink nib holder, and these just fit in nicely, so when they get smaller I can put them in there. Or you can use your finger, but that gets very messy, or a cloth. So this is a paper towel. I did use in How to Draw a Toilet Roll the toilet roll itself, but toilet roll is a different construction to paper towel, and it does feel slightly different. Now you can just point this up, fold it up and get a point that you can then push the tone of the pencil around. Now interestingly, you can see these kind of lines here. Now that's grease on the paper, actually picking up tone that's already down. So that's probably grease off my putty rubber that's kind of gone down when I was trying to erase off some lines. That's interesting. So anyway, I'm darkening down the neck. So I'm going to squodge the putty rubber around a bit, so as I get a clean point. And that's allowing me to get rid of those little funny marks. Yeah, that's a bit strange. But it could be that I maybe even touch the paper with my hand. Again, that's why I use the bridge. I'm very careful when I'm doing the art to try and keep the paper as clean as possible. Now, when you are pushing the tone around, just keep looking and you can increase just by pressing on harder. You can increase the shadows as well in the right places. So there you can see the tone is just slightly increased, and we need it down to the corner of his mouth and then underneath his bottom lip. Again, there's a grease mark there. How strange. So again, that's quite an important thing. It isn't even with what's going on with all the HAL stuff with washing your hands at the moment. Washing your hands is a very, very important thing, even in art, keeping clean. So now I'm pushing the dark to the edge of his hair at the back, because all of that is darker. Right the way around, again, following the kind of line and flow of his hair. So there you can see already it's taking a lot more shape and form. That's very strange. That's so much. Grease marks on the paper. Very strange. But still, we shall persevere and produce a good picture of Draco. So now we've got a really good mid-tone in, we are going to focus on his eyes. So I will use, for the darker, my 4B pencil, but for now detailing up his left eye. We want the dark right to the edge. I'm using the 4B right for the centre, and the dark right underneath. Being careful just to leave a little bit of as much bare paper as I possibly can. For the highlight on the top of his pupil. Now, like a clock, I'm going round very carefully. It's darker on it towards the outside than it is on the inside. Then we want slightly darker down there. And again, a few little hair eyelashes coming off his top eye. Then you've got his tear duct, and then you've got a lot of shadow down there. Then you've got a slightly darker crease over the top, and that comes all the way off over to the side. And then you've got the highlight above the bottom of his bottom eyelid, and then you want some eyelashes. Again, just turn your pencil so you got the sharper point. And we want real dark underneath his left eyebrow, just slightly indicated, going right the way over. Now I'm going to use my smudging tool because it's a bit more controllable. I'm increasing the shadow underneath the eye and over his white of his eyeball, and again the same on the fold above his eyelash and his top eyelid. Now pressing on lightly, I've increased the shadow going up to that socket. Then I want the darker coming down there, and then underneath his bottom eyelid we've got this slight V. And there you can see his eye really start to take some shape and form. Now I'm pushing the dark up over the top underneath his eyebrow, and then we want the shape, the shadow down the side of his nose. Where the edge of his nose joins to his cheek, and you've got that little diagonal coming off there. Just wiping some of the pencil off on the kitchen towel. Again, just like I do with the pencil, I am just pushing the tone of the pencil around with the smudging tool. Again, just smudging around the bottom of his nose, making it darker where the shadow is. And there, straight away, you can really see that. It makes a huge difference. And that curves up. Then the same on this side, we can darken it down to where the nose comes round the side. And just gently push the pencil around. So again, the white of his iris, the right of his eyeball down to his tear duct. You want the darker shadow underneath. Increasing the shadow there, round the edge up to the corner of his eye socket. Now, there's the shadow coming down underneath his bottom eyelid. Again, I'll push it down, there's going to be a highlight on these, but I'm just making it darker, and then we'll use the putty rub it to add the highlight afterwards. Pushing the shadow up the side of his head, you can see there's a couple of little lines, and then we want darker down this side of his eye socket, coming down his cheek. Coming round, and we want coming off his nose. Now, again, I'm using the 4B for his pupil, and I'm leaving a little slither of light, highlight above. And the B is for soft, so H is for hard, so like the higher number 2H, 4H, 6H, the higher it's the harder pencil, you'll get lighter tones. So B, you get darker tones because the pencil is softer and you can put the graphite down much easier. So this is 2B, and I'm on his iris. And we got a slither of light going all the way around, and then it's dark up at the top apart from where that little highlight is, and the same up here. And then we've got right in the corner where his tear duct is, and that curves around underneath, and then we want some eyelashes. Coming off right the way up to the edge. Increasing the shadow again. And then the fold above is darker. And then we can just darken up some of the eyebrows underneath. And there you've got Draco looking out at you. So now we're going to push the tone around his lips. Again, I've pushed it around the top and just on the kind of centre line, but left it a little bit lighter in the centre, and that's just how it works. The light bouncing off the bottom lip onto the top lip just creates that little highlight. Smudging again the bottom part of the lip. Now underneath his lip, curving round, we've got the shadow. Now here I'm increasing the shadow now right the way down the jawline, and then we need it darker for his cheek. You can tell I'm really pressing on hard now, just to push that pencil. And there, the three-dimensionality of Draco and his face is really starting to come together. So now I'm just smudging underneath on his neck. It's darker where it gets close to the collar. And his jawline is just darker that little bit. And where this comes down, you got a little shadow on the corner of the mouth, same on that side. Just wiping some of the pencil off the smudging tool. And we've got the shadow right underneath his nose, but coming down into the fold above his top lip, and then to the side. And again the same on this side. And you just leave a little bit of a highlight. And there you have Draco really looking out at you. That's quite a lovely thing to see. Again, the cheek coming down his jaw on the right hand side. You want to push that shadow up underneath his bottom lip. And you leave a little bit of a highlight on the chin. And now, coming down, you want to just push out his cheek a little bit. And the tone going right out and underneath the eye. And then you want the side of his head that comes around over the top of his eye here, the shadow. So you can push that over and increase the intensity on that. And the same on this side. And this is how I said to you earlier, you can add and build darker on. It's harder to take the dark off. There you can see Draco really, the form and the shape really coming to life. So now I'm bringing up the mid-tone on the cheek from the edge of his jawline, and that's kind of this shape here. So imagine like a little rectangle here of shade, and that comes round and joins up with the line that comes off his mouth. Now we've got a slight shade line coming off from underneath this triangle underneath his eye. Got the shade between his two eyes, and then coming right across his forehead, very lightly, just pushing the shade around, because the strongest highlights are here. And then we want just underneath his hairline, that really does just push out Now, to just really pull things up a little bit, I've really squodged my putty rubber about a bit. I just dab a little highlight where his tear duct is, and the fold there, and just underneath, and then just underneath his eyeball and his eye socket, and then underneath, just dab underneath where his eyelashes are, just following the curve, you've got a slight reflected highlight. Again, the same coming off from that side, and then going up there, a highlight on his cheek just going up there, and a highlight on his cheek going up the cheek line as well, and then over the top of his eyebrow, and then actually in the eyebrow you can just dab off some highlights, and then right on the front of his nose, and then right up the centre of his nose, but not where you've got that triangle. So again, just above the top of this eye, and we've got a little, like I say, I'm just gently touching underneath the eyebrow because you've got a reflected highlight, and the same in the crease. And now I'm just going to intensify the crease line again. And there you've got, and some of the eyelashes. That eye is looking pretty good. Now again, right around his pupil, I'm really pulling this to a point. You just see that's really given that a little bit of life. It's just really pulled it up. And the actual highlight above the pupil. Now, same thing on this side. Highlighting around the pupil. And then we want highlights over the tear duct. Actually in the tear duct and around the iris, on the whites of the eyes. And then the lower eyelid. And reflected lights on these folds. Right into the corner. Again, same on that side. And then underneath, just dabbing underneath the eyelashes, and the same in that shadow down there. Now again, I'm just darkening up the eyelashes because obviously when you just dab the eraser over them, you're going to lose some. But there you actually have Draco looking something like, again, top of his lip, that kind of M over the top of his lip, and the edges, the side parts of his nostrils, and then highlight on that bottom lip, and then on the chin. And then we can increase the dark. And let's increase the dark underneath his nose. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to try and get rid of some of these grease marks. That's really weird. But again, this is just a good sketch drawing. And this is where, if you check out the full time-lapse drawings that I do, you can see I've got this bridge, and I always click, like I say, there's those there, that's just very, very strange. Anyway, now I'm just pushing the shadow around in his ear, in his earlobe. And I want the shadow down on his hair at the back, behind his ear. And then we've got this V of darker colour. And the hair right behind. Now again, that goes very dark there. I'm just pushing the pencil around. Might be time for a new putty rubber. Like I say, I've done quite a few drawings with this one now, so it might be a case of I use a new one in the next drawings, and I will wash my hands so that there's not so much natural grease off my hands on the drawing. Now, right the way up to the edge of his head, I want the pencil line dark. Now, you can see here, you've got this full section of a dark, kind of a rectangle of hair. So I'm literally just going backwards and forwards using the smudging tool. And you can see I'm just increasing the tone. And now all of a sudden, Draco's hair is getting more shape and form. That's a little bit wavy, but you can see I'm leaving the paper as white as possible where the main highlights are. And the reason I use a smudging tool rather than a kitchen roll for things like this is you can really press on hard. And I like the actual, I like digging into the paper with the pencil, especially the darks. I really like that. The lights, not so much, but I don't mind seeing creases in the paper caused by a 4B or an 8B or even a 2B pencil. I really like that. I like the reflections that you get off it as well. So now we want tones coming down. And again, I am pushing the pencil with the smudging tool in exactly the same way as I do with the pencil for the direction of the hair. Now here we've got a lot of, like where the gel is clumped together, strands of Draco's hair. We've got darker lines, so I'm just pushing them, and again we'll use putty rubber to accentuate the highlights in a moment. But there we have a whole lot of Draco's head looking very, very good. So now, 2B pencil, back with my favourite beloved 2B pencil. So again, I'm using the side. And I am indicating direction of his hair. And it's darker over here. So as I'm pressing on dark here, and as I come over it, it gets lighter, so I release the pressure. You can do that following all the way around. And already that area, you can see, has stronger definition just by the application of a few darker lines. Now, because his hair is so straightly combed, I am being very, very careful to not kind of cross-hatch the lines so as they all flow in the same kind of direction. Again, we've got it coming over his ear here. You've got some horizontal lines and then they just curve up. So I'm using the point to create the effect of the thin lines. And when I go over with the putty rubber to get the highlights on, that'll really pull those lines together. Now I'm back on the side because I want the thicker dark on the back of his head. So this is why you have a piece of paper, so I can rest on his face. Sorry, Draco. And then I can draw hair down behind the back of his ear and shade it accordingly. And again, this triangle of dark in his ear, I can increase that as well. Hair coming over the top, and it's all very soft in the actual crevice of his ear, down to this darker tone inside where the real crease is at the bottom of his earlobe. Now here we've got his hair coming off behind the back of his earlobe, a little kind of darker tone up in the corner. It comes right down to the edge, and then you've got a dark triangle there. Now I'm going to use the smudging tool, darken that part of the ear. I'm pushing the tone around because it's all very similar. Now, pull my putty rubber to a fine point. You got a little highlight on the top of that earlobe, then right up the side there, right up at the back, little bit there. Then you want some highlights on the lobe at the bottom, reflected highlights. Now there's a little bit underneath that hair and a little bit inside, but you can see straight away you've actually got shape and form and tone. From highlights to dark, they're creating the image of Draco's ear. Again, his hair, just indicating lightly with a 2B pencil. And he's got a bit more of a dark shadow, so I'm using the side of the pencil, increasing the dark on his cheek. Now back up onto the hair. Now we've got some real darks coming to the edge. Right to the back of it, the edge of his head on the image. And we're just bringing those darks over. And the same at the back, going right the way up and over. It's darker. Right at the back. So I'm using the edge of the 2B pencil, and you can see how that's getting darker already, and it just frames the back of Draco's head and his hair. And by increasing the darks at the back, because that's where they are, it helps bring the highlights forwards. So here we've got this dark line coming over. We need some darker points coming in. The same all the way round this side. Again, if you think of a clock, this is the point where everything's coming out from his hair. Like the clocks of hands of a clock, so you got like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. That's how you can follow, you use your reference point, and that's where the hair is going to go to. I'm just gently, softly increasing the tone around the back. There you can see it's really given Draco that solid form now of his head. And we started with an outline, just putting some mid-tones in. It's amazing how you can actually build it all up very, very quickly. So I am just quickly now trying to just give some quick definition to the shadow parts underneath his gelled hair. Again, going in the same direction as the hair. So remember to use the curve of your wrist and your arm. So I'm moving as free as I can to actually keep the lines fluid. And because I'm pressing on gently and I'm using the side of the pencil, it shouldn't be too hard when we use the eraser to add the highlights. So now, coming over this kind of rectangle of hair to the dark, I'm increasing those detail lines. And if you squint, you can kind of see the shapes where it's darker. So again, always look at your reference and just remember that that squinting little technique is a real helpful one, because you'll see blocks of tone and shapes of tone. So here we've got, it comes to a V. We've got some lines coming down. Again, there where I've just put some lines, you can barely see them, the effect, but they're there and it all helps. Again, I'm just twisting the pencil slightly. And we've got little wavy bits of hair. Now here, it comes up onto the side of his forehead. And so here now we've been adding a lot of darker tone, coming all the way around. So I'm now going back to my smudging tool, just going to wipe and clean the edge off a little bit. And I'm very gently pushing that tone around his hairline. Pushing that to the sides and then darkening down the side of his forehead down to his eye socket, increasing down there. The side of his cheek is a little bit darker, going up to the side of his head. Right down the side of his jawline, and there you can see that's really made a huge difference. So now we've got the top of his nose, we need that line just accentuating the shadow underneath the nose to the top of his lip. And this is how you do it, you just go around and you increase as you go the tone. Now the jawline here has lost, like we've got the sharp pencil line here, it's lost that sharp pencil line. That's okay, because you look, it's a very soft tone. Now I'm really pushing that. Now you can actually leave it, and you'll see this in the How to Draw Dumbledore, the young Dumbledore. I will be doing the old Dumbledore. I'm going to have to do two because Richard Harris was in the first film, and I can't remember his name, but he says Silencio in another film, who plays Dumbledore for the rest of the films. So I'm going to have to do two of the older Dumbledore as well. But if you look at the young Dumbledore, I don't smooth out, I just use the cross hatching of the pencil, and I will do some more of those. But I want you to see how you can get, I mean, what looks like a hyper-real illustration, and this is like in less than 2 hours. So there you can see you've got the edge of his jawline, and that's fine. You haven't got, if you go over that with a dark pencil, it will look a bit weird. So just clean that off again after smudging a fair bit about. We need to do the same coming round. So you can see the shadow comes above the top of his eye. Gently darkening that down. Again. So the side of his nose, we do, oh, no, that's the 4B. There's the 2B. And the same, just crisping that up very, very lightly, very gently. Again, the same. Now, for those details in the shadows, just increasing a little bit under his eyes. And this is, you just work your way around the picture slowly, building it up and building it up. So now I'm going to get my putty eraser and we're going to put in. Now I'm left-handed, so I'm going that way. It just works for me, you know. But you have to follow the lines of the hair. You know, if you're right-handed, you would be going that way over the art, which is fine. Somebody, after watching a complete full video, did leave a comment, which did make me laugh. "Oh, you left-handed?" After watching a video of me drawing with my left hand. It's like, no, I just do it with my left hand for fun. So, it's just one of those things that really made me smile. And that's the beauty of drawing. You should smile. You should enjoy it. And I love doing this. This is just great. You know, you start with a blank piece of paper and then you get to see this in a very short space of time. So the highlights there, you can see, are starting to lift up on his hair, where the light's coming down and touching his forehead. Again, I'm just dabbling then, just dappling and dabbling the putty rubber on, and it just pulls off a little bit. So again, if you're unsure about doing it direct on a drawing, just put some tone down onto a piece of paper and experiment using a putty rubber. See what it can do. Dappling with a wide part or pinching it into a fine point, like I'm doing just to pull up these highlights. So again, want the highlights going right up and right across the back. So now I'm barely touching, because I don't want to pull off as much as I have done here, just to create some definition lines towards the back of the head. Again, the same on the side parts. And there you see Draco's head is completely formed now. And you can go as long as you want actually creating the hair as detailed as you would like to. Again, I'm just doing this very, very quickly to show you. So you could spend 5 hours on the hair. You could spend a day on the hair. You could spend a week on the hair. Some hyper-real artists, they spend 4 weeks on a portrait, 8 weeks on a portrait. And it is absolutely fantastic what they produce. Whereas again, you can be a little looser and a little bit more impressionistic, like this, and produce something that's very, very real. I hope this is inspiring you to just keep on picking your pencil up and having a go. You can see here we've got darker shadow where the hair's thicker. And that's just giving that little bit of definition again at the front, coming around to right where it's very bright over his front of his right eye. So again, just need some highlight above that eyebrow. Just a little bit of dappling there. Now we want a little bit of highlight on the side of his lip there. The same down there. And then down his right cheek. That's looking pretty good. Now we have some quick fun. Now again, we have some of the pencil already on the kitchen roll, so I am literally just smudging this down on his shirt where the tones are. Again, some grease spots. No idea. Bizarre. None there though. Isn't that strange? On the shirt underneath the tie, we can just push that around on the tie as well. Now, one of the things that I haven't used is a 2H pencil. Now, you can, when you want to just increase some of the tones, like in the shadows down here. This is using a 2H pencil. And you can just go over, and because it's such a light pencil, you're only adding a little bit of tone at a time. So I'm just squinting and you can see there's a bit of a shadow in the centre of his forehead. And again, you can build this up using a 2H pencil rather than a 2B, because it's a little bit harder. Now I do use a 6H for very, very light tones, and even on these tones around the nose, you can see using the side of the pencil, it also pushes the 2B around that's already there, and you can create that kind of fuzzy shadow that's created by the side of the nose, and you can fill in areas that need a little bit more tone. So like here underneath the edge of this eye, rather than using the smudging tool where the fold is there. And again on this side, right under the eye, going where the fold is, to the outer side of the head, going up to the corner of his eye socket. And then that shadow tone going up into the hair. And this is something that you can do using the different grades of pencil. Again, you've got a bit more tone coming down there over his mouth, on the side there, coming down to this side. And you can just take the edge off very lightly, that highlight. So the highlight's still there, but I've just covered it with the tone of the 2H, and it'll help here underneath his bottom lip. So again, that's how you can add better tone. Now even, as I said, you could, if you use the 2B on the side of his cheek here, it would be like these, too dark a line. Whereas using this 2H pencil, you can actually add some great definition tone, but very, very carefully, in a very controlled way, to your drawing. And because it's got such a sharp tip, even in the hair, because it's not going to, you're not going to get a dark black line, even though you can barely see these, you know that that is adding the right kind of lines for the hair. Very fine lines. You know, he's got very fine blonde hair that's gelled into place and position accurately and completely. And so these 2H pencil lines are going to help with that definition in the hair. And you can hear the marks going down, so you know that the pencil line is actually going on there, even though you can't see it. Now again, in this part where it's the highlight, you can press on very lightly, but you could even use the 6H or an 8H and you'll get very fine lines. And this is what the hyper-real artists do. They use the grades of pencil to get absolutely meticulous detail. We are doing a rather quick one. So there you see, it's just really lifting the drawing together. So I'm now going to dapple off those little grease spot marks, which is strange, and we are going to do this collar. So we've got a darker shadow there, so I've just put some pencil on and it's darker there, and that should, if we now go to the smudging tool, after I've picked up the 4B, so I'm going to put the full darker shadow in using the 4B, going up to where the 2B was. And then if you just push that around with the smudging tool, let's just get rid of that construction line, the grid line that was in there, and you soften the edge. You've got the edge of his neck inside his collar, and then you can push the shadow down the side, and then again the same there, and then we've got a shadow caused by his neck on the top of the collar. And then you've got the kind of creases caused by the sewing on the edge of the collar all the way up. And then on this side again we've got the shadow underneath his chin, down the side of his cheek, down the side of the collar. So you can see how the tone is just given the shape and form of the cloth. Now I am going to use the 2H pencil again, and that's going to put in the detail of this sewing line. Again, it'll just go over and increase, even using the 2H. You can see how it's just giving you that slightly deeper shadow, because you've already put like 2B pencil down there. You're actually pushing that around as well as putting 2H down at the same time. That's pretty good. I'm just putting some little crosshatch bits in. And then crisp up the dark inside the collar. And then we want dark shadow caused by the tie, the edge of the collar, and then we've got that shadow caused by the overlap of the shirt. But then again we've got much darker at the top, caused by this shadow, caused by this side of this collar. So we can put a little bit of 2B down, and again the same on that side. I'm going to use 4B because it's much softer and you'll be able to push it around a lot easier, because for the shadow you want that kind of softer tone. Now the 2H pencil will crisp up the edge of his shirt, the overlap where the buttons, so this would be like where your buttons are. Now again, I'm now just going to use a putty rubber and dapple some highlights on, and then kind of crisp up where the line is, the edge of the shirt, little highlights on where the collar buttons are, the edge of the collar here, all the way up the side, and then dappling on the shirt, crisping up the edge there, and highlights there. Now, because the tie isn't done, that's not showing up, and also the black of his cloak. When these get added in, you will, like I say, you will see it will be practically finished then, and everything's coming together. As you saw from the head, how it all kind of got more detailed when we started to put more tone in and darker lines. This will really pull it together when we finish the tie and his shoulders and his cloak. We now are getting close to the end, so I'm just putting in a little bit of tone, because you can see there's a bit of a triangle of shadow down here. The shape of the tie with it being curved goes around. Now I'm putting in the mid-tone on there, and the same coming down. His V-neck jumper, school jumper, is underneath, and then we need much darker on the top for that. So I'm now, I mean, you could, I just like using these smudging tools because they're great. They're just so versatile, and you can get different thicknesses as well. So I just smudged in the tones on that, and that is a bit bitty down the bottom, but we've got a highlight going all the way down the tie. And then also one kind of in the middle. And then kind of just going up and then over at the top. Reflected highlight underneath. Again, the same. Right down the edge and a reflected highlight above the top of that dark stripe, right into that corner. Again, I'm just smudging that dark end and softening it off. And it needs to go a little bit darker. The same on that one, and then right underneath. Now I'm going to use the 4B pencil. Again, remember, B is for the soft, the higher, so the 4B, 5B, 6B, 8B, it's much more soft. So I'm using the 4B pencil on this one. I'm increasing the tone to match the shadow on that part, and then it's darker on this side where it curves around and goes under. Now, this part of the tie is fairly flat, so you've got a fairly consistent tone, but it will be darker just at the edges and then underneath where the tie knot is at the top and at the edge there. And then here it's darker in this area than it is here, so we want the lighter tone but slightly darker than the jumper, and then much darker but not completely black. Now get the smudging tool again. You can really push that into the paper. You can see where pressing on lighter and darker you can increase the tone as you see fit to match the tone that's above in the lighter stripes. So now I'm going to go back on with the 4B to really delineate the edge of that dark part of the tie, and you've got a real darker part underneath as the tie goes off underneath his collar, and the same, you've got the dark on that side up at the top. And gently increase the shadow on the lighter part of the stripe. Now down in the V we've got darker where the cardigan meets the tie, and the same here where the shadow comes down, so you just intensify and soften the edge off. And now you can see we've really got most of it together, and it'll really just finally come together when we put his shoulders in, his cloak, his dark wizard's cloak. So again, I'm now using the 2H pencil over the top, and it just helps to regulate the tone a little bit better, and it still leaves that highlight there coming down the tie. That is looking rather splendid. Do I? Ooh. Now I'm going to use the 4B. I was going to use the 8B, but I'm now using the 4B pencil and I am just filling in using the side of the pencil and we're going to fill in Draco's cloak. So I'm just going right to the line where the edge of his cloak is, and over his left shoulder. So already you're getting a much sharper, stronger definition. Now again, you can look into the darks on these kind of areas and there are lots of tones. So like some areas where there are folds or slight creases, you can increase or decrease. And what I was toying with was actually using my 8B pencil, but instead I am just going to use the 4B. Careful next to his cheek. Now following his right shoulder down, and this pencil is just disappearing. The other thing is as well is you can with squidgy lines like that kind of looks arty, which is quite good. But my pencil is disappearing rather quickly. So again, I've just done a very, very, very quick line and I've gone over the collar, but I've pulled it off very quickly using the eraser. But as I was saying before, there's a lot of dark tone on there, so be careful. Like here, I was very careful next to his cheek because I don't want to go over onto his face, because you can destroy a lot of your work very quickly. Right, I love that electric pencil sharpener. And this is the thing, these large areas of dark will get through these pencils very, very quickly. I can remember once, to finish a video, I was like desperately stuck, thinking if I don't go and get some pencils now, I will have to wait till the next day. And I had an art store that was about 6 miles away, 10 kilometres. And it was, do I go and get the pencils now? This art store is unfortunately closed for a number of reasons, but one of them was the lady who ran the art store has had her first child, which is lovely. So I took the risk and went out just before rush hour traffic, because it was right in the centre of our major shopping district, and I bought the pencils because I knew that if I didn't buy the pencils I would run out. So there, that kind of looks rather arty, but we are going to fill it in. And keep filling it in. Anyway, back to the pencil story. So I left home, went to go and get these pencils, and fortunately on that drawing I didn't run out. But you can guarantee if I hadn't have gone and got the pencils, I would have run out. That electric pencil sharpener is brilliant. Oh, that is so good. So now you are seeing Draco really come together. And if I was using the 8B pencil, the black would be disappearing even quicker. As I said to you, I really like pressing on and forcing the pencil so you can see the kind of bird reflections of the pencil, the shine. I really like that. I don't like the flat matte. That's literally personal choice. You can do whatever you want. Now I will at some point possibly have a go with charcoal, and never really used charcoal apart from in art school days a long time ago, and back then all we had was willow sticks and they were rubbish, whereas now you can get compressed charcoal pencils. So I will have a play at some point possibly, but I do love the simple humble pencil. And there, so I am not even going to smudge it with a kitchen towel because it will push lots of graphite pencil around. I'm going to leave that like that. Now I've just got that up to a perfectly fine point, and now because I've put all of those darks in down at the on his shoulders, I can now add some of the stronger darks around the drawing. Again, this is all what you do as you progress around a drawing. So even there, where his hair goes down behind the back of his ear, I've just pulled some off, and then I can just add a little bit of lighter tone back in using the 2H pencil. Now the 4B will allow me to really crisp the dark up. I'm using the very tip and I'm turning it around because it's so soft it will blunt quite quickly. Again, we want the curve of his eye, and that goes off. Eyelashes. Want dark, and then the tear duct. Now I'm going to use the 2B because I don't want it too dark on his lips. Then that goes out. We want to increase the shadow just on the edge, and this is what you could call the tickling stage. This is where you can tweak and play about loads. Now because of the 4B that I've just put down on his cloak, I'm now picking bits of that up to just add on to increase increase the shadow just down his cheek. And this is really just last little details, just to increase. So again, coming off the side of his eye socket there, we can increase the shadow, and then there's a little bit of increase there, and just darken that tone down there. Right under his nose. So because I don't want it too dark, just wiped the tip clean. Again, there's a bit of a grease spot there. It does kind of look like freckles actually. He's got very light freckles in the reference picture. But that's okay. Again, we've got those grease marks on there, but we can just deal with them rather quickly. So again, we're darkening down next to the collar, around his neck, up to the back of his neck where the collar bends around. I'm rather happy with that. I hope you are. I've really enjoyed it. I am just going to increase the highlights on his tie at the bottom, and some highlights on his collar. And that is pretty much Draco completed. So I know you have had to wait a very long time for this, but I hope you all agree it's been worth it. And Draco is now done, and we shall do his professor next, and then something completely different. But then we will be back to some Harry Potter stuff as well, because there's lots to do in that one. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that lesson. Please do like and subscribe, click the bell for notifications of when new drawing videos become live, and I'm doing lots over this period because there's lots of people who need access to this kind of drawing material. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, enjoy your drawing, that's all I can say. Thanks very much for watching. Ta-da.